This right here is the cheapest autofocus fast prime you can find in the market today. Hello everyone, this is Ernesto with Aftershoot, and not too long ago I did a Black Friday video recommending some gear that was going to be on sale during Black Friday. Now, at the moment of recording this video, the lens that I'm going to talk about is around $168, but during Black Friday it was only $130. Now, $130 for a 40mm f2 lens, autofocus that is an actual steal. You're not gonna find that price anywhere else. But is this lens good enough to produce good results? That's what we're going to find out today. Okay, so let's get one thing right out of the way. When it comes to technology, to camera gear in general, you get what you pay for. So if you're paying a high price, you're usually getting a high quality product. So when you're buying a cheap lens or when you're buying cheap gear, there are going to be some trade-offs. So in case of lenses, that can be color accuracy, or what we're going to talk about right now is sharpness. Is this lens sharp enough to deliver good images? Well, I'm going to be showing you some photos right now while I'm speaking, and I would say in general the lens is sharp enough. It's not clinically sharp like a Sony G Master or the OGs, Canons and Nikons, but it is good enough. If you're a pixel peeper and you're always zooming into your photos to see if they are perfectly sharp, then you're probably not gonna love this lens. I would say that from 1 out of 10, this lens is 8 when it comes to sharpness. It's not perfect, it's not clinically sharp, but it's good enough to deliver good photos and to give you great results. One important thing to take into consideration is the focal length of this lens. This is a 40mm f2 lens. So how should we treat this lens? I would say, since it's closer to 35 than to 50, I'm gonna treat this lens like if it was a 35. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that when I'm shooting portraits, I'm never going to have very tight portraits unless I'm cropping in editing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have basically half body shots or full body shots, because since it's closer to 35, since it's closer to a wider lens, probably if I get too close to my subject, I'm gonna start warping their features. Okay, so one thing I did notice about this lens is even though the autofocus is quite accurate when it comes to action shots, it doesn't exactly track the subject. Now, Sony cameras are known to have excellent autofocus, and I know I've used this camera to shoot some fast-moving subjects, so I know this camera can track it. So far from all those kind of action shots I had, I've noticed that the lens wasn't exactly as accurate as I would have wanted it to be. If you're planning on taking some action portraits or some portrait with movement, then this lens is probably not for you. Because this is an f2 lens, I'm shooting all of my photos today at f2 because I want to see how good the lens performs at its widest aperture. Is f2 closer to f1.8 or is it closer to f2.8 when it comes to those creamy backgrounds? And also, how does it behave with the foreground blur? Because a lot of people talk about background blur, but right now I have this plant in front of her. That's gonna be my foreground, which I'm gonna try and get it blurry with the f2 aperture. And then, of course, my background. Let's see how it behaves. When it comes to background blur, I would say that if you're used to shooting with f1.8 lenses, then you're probably not going to be able to tell the difference. But if you are more used to shooting with f2.8 lenses, you are going to see a difference when it comes to the blurry background. So if you're looking for your first faster prime, this might be a great option. Okay, so I was going to test the lens's behavior when it comes to flaring. So I was going to shoot against the sun, but it's just impossible. This lens can't handle flaring in a very good way. The photos are just unusable. Let me show you. So if you see my subject there, I'm trying to focus on her, but it just doesn't let me do it. I would say if you're gonna get this lens, stay away from flaring or just use a different lens if that's the photo you want. Okay, so some final thoughts while you check these last photos out. I would still do some client work with this lens, but I would not use it as my only lens. The focal length, like I said, is basically a 35, so I'm very used to that focal length. I can make a lot of things work with that focal length. So 40mm, I would say is good. When it comes to background blur, f2 delivers a very nice and creamy background. Now, I already said it doesn't behave well when it comes to movement, but then again, I did not buy this lens to shoot any sports or anything like that, and it doesn't behave very well when it comes to flaring. This lens flares a lot. But all things considered, since I only paid $130 for this, I think it's a no-brainer. I would say that if you're looking for your first prime, you don't want to spend a lot of money, then this TT Artisan 40mm f2 is probably your best choice. It is an autofocus lens, which is also very hard to find for the price. Even though there are some cons, I think there are more pros, so I definitely recommend this lens. Anyways, thanks for watching. That's it for today, and as always, don't forget to follow Aftershoot in all of our social media to be always up to date with the latest we have to offer. See you guys in the next one. Bye.